and then went home. And then I called Carlton to get Kelly's number. And I was calling Kelly to get Beyonce's number. And I called Kelly and said, "Hey, Kelly." She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I know it's might be kind of weird, but what's Beyonce's number?" And she said, "This is Beyonce," because they live together and I didn't know it. And bam.
Big Dog and all the 581 ballers. I love y'all.
Beyonce.
Solange, my little sister, Angie, Lyndall, I love y'all.
Let me ask you something. Can you think of anyone who fumbled harder than Bianchi's ex-boyfriend, Lyndall Locke? I'll wait. Actually, there's no need to wait because we already know the answer. Nobody. It's been over 20 years since Beyonce left that relationship behind, and their lives couldn't be more opposite now. She's become one of the biggest stars in the world, hit after hit, iconic performances, global fame. Meanwhile, Lyndall, he's just out here being, well, Lyndall. But things just took an unexpected turn because Lyndall recently started talking about his past with Beyonce, and what he revealed has everyone doing a double take. People are curious. What was Beyonce really like before all the lights and cameras? Did she actually step out on him with Jay-Z? What details does Lyndall have that none of us know? See, when people think of Beyonce today, they immediately think of Jay-Z. It's like they've been a pair forever. It's hard for most of us to imagine her with anyone else. But before Jay came along, there was Lyndall. He was there during the early, formative years back when she was still chasing dreams, going to auditions, and trying to make a name for herself. Lyndall says he and Beyonce first met in 1993. She was 12, and he was 14. They both went to the same church in Houston, and it was Kelly Rowland who introduced them. According to him, the moment he saw her, he was smitten. He thought she was the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen. They hit it off quickly, talking on the phone every night, hanging out after school, and eventually dating. Now, even though Beyonce had been singing and dancing since she was a little girl, Lyndall said he had no idea about her passion for music until 2 years into their relationship. He noticed that she and Kelly were always going on trips to Atlanta, but Beyonce never talked much about it. She stayed quiet, kept to herself, and didn't act like a big deal. Eventually, when he asked her why she was always traveling, she finally told him the truth. She was auditioning for record labels and trying to get discovered. She wanted to be a star. And from that moment on, Lyndall realized that Beyonce wasn't just any girl, she was already on her way to greatness.
Now, at this time, y'all were so young. I mean, was she actually singing then?
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah, she was never not singing, but she did not. It wasn't anything she talked about. She didn't talk about. Like, I found out like over time, you know, it has to. You have to say something about like, I'm going out of town. It's like, okay. It's like, I'm out of town. Where you at? I'm in Atlanta. What are you doing in Atlanta? You know, I mean, it's like it has to. So, and when she brought up, first time she brought up, I'm sorry, I talk fast, I mumble, and I'm playing with my Rubik's Cube. But when she mentioned it, she said, "I don't normally talk about it. I don't like to talk about it. This is, it's not a part of her life that she wants to put into other people's world, so that, it was personal." So I left her.
She was pretty humble about the situation at the time.
Yeah. Nobody wants to talk about getting a record deal that they don't get.
Even though she was just a teenager, Beyonce never lost focus on what she wanted in life. She was determined to chase her dreams, no matter how hard it got. But at the same time, she still made an effort to be there for Lyndall. She cared about him and always found moments to show up when it counted. One of their sweetest memories was when they shared their very first kiss at a Brian McKnight concert. She was just 15 years old. As Destiny's Child began rising in the music world, Beyonce's schedule became packed. She had rehearsals, interviews, and performances non-stop. Still, she carved out time for Lyndall. She even went with him to his high school prom, dressed up like a regular teenager in love. She also joined him and his friends on trips and hangouts, trying to keep their connection alive despite the whirlwind her life was becoming. But things started to change. The deeper Beyonce got into her career, the more distance grew between them. People close to them thought their bond was strong enough to last forever. From the outside, it looked like a fairy tale. But in reality, they were growing in opposite directions. Beyonce was out touring, chasing her goals, and building a future. Lyndall, on the other hand, wasn't thinking long-term. He wasn't making any big moves and was stuck in the moment. While Beyonce was out promoting Destiny's Child's first big single, Lyndall was back home, smoking and wasting time. And sadly, That's when their paths started to split.
I took it for granted.
Took it for granted.
Yeah, I want to say that's what it was. Taking it for granted, and then, let's say, took it for granted, and then checked to see if she thought I took it for granted, and then she answered me with yes, bye. Yeah.
So you pretty much played with her emotions or something?
No, it wasn't on purpose. This was not on purpose. This is looking back at the situation and seeing the situation for what it was. You know, at the time, it was just I went and did something else, and then went to her house and went to sleep. And then when I was supposed to be hanging out with her, and then the next day, you know, went to go do something else again. I mean, that's what it was. That's the actions that were taking place. But with those actions, what was occurring was me taking it for granted.
Bianca and Lyndall Locke tried to keep their relationship going, even as her career started to take off. But by the time Destiny's Child released their second album, things were already starting to fall apart. The connection they once had was slowly fading. Lyndall admitted that while Bianca was focused on building her image and chasing her goals, he was just drifting through life, not really thinking ahead. He was enjoying the moment with no direction, and that became a problem. As Bianca's fame grew, she started acting distant. Lyndall even told her once that she was becoming someone completely different from the girl he first met. She didn't deny it. She looked him in the eyes and said, "I am." It was clear that her priorities had shifted. She was no longer that shy girl from Houston. She was turning into a star, and everything in her life was starting to revolve around her career. There was one moment during a fight that made everything clear. Lyndall said he just wanted a simple life with her, something normal, but Bianca wasn't having it. She reminded him that she had dreamed of being famous since she was a little girl, and she wasn't about to let anything or anyone get in the way of that. Things got even harder when Bianca's father, Matthew Knowles, pulled Lyndall aside and asked him point blank what his plans were for the future. Lyndall had no answer. He didn't know what he wanted to do, and standing there with nothing to say felt embarrassing. Imagine being surrounded by successful people and having no direction. That pressure started to weigh on him. Every time he saw Mr. Knowles coming, he probably felt like running away just to avoid the awkwardness. It felt like Bianca's family saw him as someone who wasn't good enough for her. And it wasn't just her father making things hard, it was Bianca herself. As she started meeting powerful men in the music industry, she began expecting more from Lyndall. But he couldn't live up to those standards. One time, Bianca got them VIP passes to see Janet Jackson in concert. When Lyndall met Janet, he was so nervous he couldn't stop talking. He stammered, rambled, and said all kinds of random things. Janet laughed and told him he reminded her of one of her nephews. Lyndall, trying to play it cool, said her nephew must be pretty awesome. Then in the moment, Lyndall didn't think he'd done anything wrong. After all, who wouldn't be starstruck meeting Janet Jackson? But Bianca wasn't pleased. She didn't like how he came off and asked her cousin Angie to show him the door. That hurt him. Part of him understood that Bianca was trying to protect her image, but he still couldn't believe she was upset over him being excited to meet someone he'd admired for years. Eventually, all the pressure got to him. Lyndall started acting out. While Bianca was traveling for work, he was out partying and hooking up with other women. He said he wasn't trying to hurt her, but it was his way of dealing with everything. Surprisingly, Bianca kept forgiving him. She even tried to hold on to what they had by acknowledging him in her music. Songs like Dangerously in Love and Perfect Man were meant for him. And when her first solo album came out, she gave him a personal shout out in the thank you section. "Thank you, Lyndall. You are very special to me, and I dedicate Second Nature to you." Even though their paths were clearly pulling them apart, it was obvious that, for a long time, Bianca still cared.
Dangerously in Love, that's the number one V song, Dangerously in Love, because that song was written for me and about me. So,
Dangerously in Love?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's number one. That's my favorite song.
After a certain point, it became clear that there was no future left for Bianca and Lyndall. She had grown into someone completely new, more focused, more driven, and surrounded by people in the music industry. She was attending high-profile events, building her brand, and moving forward fast. Meanwhile, Lyndall was still living in the same hometown, unsure about what he wanted to do with his life. They were clearly growing in opposite directions. Even with all those changes, Lyndall admitted that part of him was still clinging to the connection they once had. He still believed their love was real and hoped there was a chance to build a future together. But from the outside, it seemed like he was the only one holding on. Beyonce had already moved on. And by moving on, I mean she had stepped into something much bigger with J-Z. In 2003, Lyndall finally asked Beyonce directly about the rumors going around that she and Jay-Z were more than just friends. Most people around them already believed they were together, but Beyonce denied everything. She told Lyndall that Jay wasn't even her type and insisted she still cared for him.